Good day, everyone. My name is H. Lipio, and we're going to talk about the hydraulics of flow of groundwater. Groundwater. Groundwater is the water present beneath the Earth's surface in rock and soil pore spaces and in the fractures of rock formations. A unit of rock or an unconsolidated deposit is called an aquifer when it can yield a usable quantity of water. Aquifers are typically made up of gravel, sand, sandstone, or fractured rock like limestone. Water can move through these materials because they have large connected spaces that make them permeable. The speed at which groundwater flows depends on the size of the spaces in the soil or rock and how well the spaces are connected. Water in aquifers is brought to the surface naturally through a spring or can be discharged into lakes and streams. So, ang tubig sa aquifer ay maaaring ilabas sa mga lakes or lawa at streams or sa sapa. And where does groundwater eventually flow? Groundwater eventually flow in the part that continues downward through the soil until it reaches the rock material that is saturated in groundwater recharge. Water in the saturated groundwater system moves slowly and may eventually discharge into streams, lakes, and oceans. Katulad kanina. What controls the flow of groundwater? Topography and geology are the dominant factors controlling the groundwater flow. Storativity describes the property of an aquifer to store water. Hydraulic conductivity is measured by performing a pumping test or by pumping one well and observing the changes in hydraulic head in neighboring wells. And to- the meaning of topography is ang pag-aayos ng natural at artificial na physical na tampok ng isang lugar. At ang geology naman ay ang agham na tumatalakay sa pisikal na istruktura at sangkap ng lupa or ang kasaysayan nito at ang mga proseso na kumikilos dito. And ano dito sa figure, makikita niyo yung unsaturated zone. Unsaturated zone means it contains water in the gas phase under atmospheric pressure or water temporarily or permanently under less than atmospheric pressure and air or other gases. The fine-grained materials may be temporarily or permanently saturated with water under less than atmospheric pressure, but the coarse-grained materials are unsaturated and generally contain liquid water only in rings surrounding the contacts between grains, and the unsaturated zone contains water and air in the open spaces or pores. And the saturated zone is a zone in which all the pores and rock fractures are filled with water underlies underlies the unsaturated zone. So ito siya, fractured rocks. And the unsaturated zone or vadose zone has low water content relative to the saturated zone below the water table and is therefore commonly referred to as the unsaturated zone. Above the capillary fringe, vadose zone pore spaces are generally air-filled, with thin water films coating solid particles. And what and ang water table naman ay is the depth at which soil pores, spaces, or fractures and voids in rock became completely saturated with water. Yan. And tapos ito, and the gravel naman, it means a loose aggregation of small water or pounded stones, mga napudpud na mga bato. And ah, sorry. And hydraulics of flow of groundwater. Groundwater hydrology is concerned with evaluating the availability and quality of the groundwater. Groundwater hydraulic is concerned with natural or induced movements of water through permeable rock formations. Kaya ang groundwater hydraulics ay nag-aalala sa natural o sa pilitan na paggalaw ng tubig sa pamamagitan ng mga permeable rock formations and groundwater flow faster where hydraulic gradient and hydraulic conductivity are larger. Groundwater flow velocities are much slower than surface water flow velocities, except in limestone karst formation, where groundwater flows through caves and large solutions channels. The range of groundwater varies greatly, but does not commonly exceed a few meters per day. So, sa nasabi nating karst formation, karst formation is a type of landscape where the dissolving of the bedrock has created sinkholes, sinking streams, caves, springs, and other characteristic features. Karst is associated with soluble rock types such as limestone, marble, and gypsum. In general, a typical karst landscape forms when much of the water falling on the surface interacts with the end with and enters the subsurface through cracks, frac- fractures, and holes that have been dissolved into the bedrock. After traveling underground, sometimes for long distances, this water is then discharged from springs, many of which are cave entrances. And groundwater flows from region of higher hydraulic head to regions of lower hydraulic head. The change in hydraulic head along a groundwater flow path is termed the hydraulic gradient. The hydraulic gradient has both magnitude and direction. Yan. Groundwater does not flow in straight lines. It flows from areas of higher hydraulic head to areas of lower hydraulic head. And this means that it can flow uphill, pataas, in many situations. This is illustrated in this figure. Wait. The dashed orange lines, ito, ang mga dashed orange lines, ito. The dashed orange lines are equiptional, meaning lines of equal pressure. Ito siya, lines of equal pressure. And these blue lines, ito mga blue lines, and the blue lines are the predicted groundwater flow paths The dashed lines, red lines are no flow boundaries. Ito. No flow boundaries. Itong sa red dashed lines. That's not because there is something there to stop it, but because there's no pressure gradient that will cause water to flow in that direction. So ayun. That's all. Thank you.